Hey guys, and welcome back to Middle Earth Monday, the spin-off channel where we focus on nothing but content from Middle Earth. This is obviously episode 2. Last week we gave you the beautiful Hobbit hole, and I'm actually making this video speaking to you now before this video has come out. I'm trying to stay ahead of myself with this channel so I don't fall behind at all. So I don't even know how that video went, so hopefully you guys have watched it, you really enjoyed it. If you haven't, what's wrong with you? Go back and watch it. It's me making an adorable little hobbit hole. What could be better than that?
What about second breakfast?
In today's video though, we are going a tiny bit more forward into the movie series. So for anyone out there who doesn't know how this channel is going to work, I'm going to begin the Middle Earth series with the quest for the Ringbearer. So the idea is I'm going to go through the movies and I'm going to be doing the miniatures as they kind of appear in the story and then kind of take it through then. So when a scenario actually does show up in the movies, like Buckleberry Ferry for instance, I will get all the miniatures ready for that particular scene, and then I will actually film a game of me doing Buckleberry Ferry, and then obviously we'll move forward, we'll go for Bree and Rivet, you know, all that kind of thing. So the opening scene of the Lord of the Rings, apart from the scene with the Last Alliance with the elves and the Númenóreans fighting the Mordor orcs and Sauron and stuff like that, we'll leave that for a little bit later on. I want to save those kind of miniatures for more the fight around the Black Gate and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to start with Gandalf coming into town, coming into Hobbiton on his lovely cart. So that's what we're going to do in today's video. I've owned this model for a long time. In fact, it's not even the version of it that I really wanted. Unfortunately, I could never get my hands on a metal version, which I would have preferred. So I'm stuck with the fine cast version. So I'm going to do all I can to make that model look beautiful and get it painted up and finally have it added to my collection. So hopefully you guys are excited to stick around and enjoy that. If you like the idea of this channel and this content, please do think about giving this video a like, dropping a comment below, and making sure you're subscribed. That would be absolutely amazing. All right, guys, thank you so much. Let's dive in and get this cart painted up. Okay, so this is the box that he came in. Unfortunately, it's not that beautiful original box set with the photograph and the blue trim and all that stuff. It's one of those made to order ones. So I'm sad that I don't have that box, but you know, we shall move on. Inside you are met with 3 sprues that are in pretty shabby condition because they are, I think I meant to say shabby condition there, but I don't know why I said shabby, but we will just move on and pretend that didn't happen. And as you can see, it's fine cast, so it's just a horrible material, unfortunately. But we work with what we have. So I broke out an old toothbrush that has stiff bristles and I gave everything a scrub. This removes most of the excess kind of fleck and little bits of kind of debris and stuff that's still stuck to it from the molding process. I always like to do this on the sprue. It helps like clean up later on, speed up the whole thing. Very carefully cut out the parts. You do have to be careful when cutting out like fine cast parts because they can kind of tear. So you have to make sure that you're always going kind of with the direction that you want. You know what I mean? You can't, it's a funny one. If you can avoid buying fine cast miniatures ever, I would recommend just not doing it. So, but we move on. We then went and cleaned up all the different parts, got rid of all the mold lines and all those, and then we started the gluing together process. It was a tiny bit finicky, but there was absolutely no hiccups whatsoever. Everything went completely smooth, and in no time at all, and without any swearing or any giving out, we had a perfectly assembled Gandalf the cart model. I swear, nothing went wrong. Well, what are you going to do? Models are going to get glued to your fingers if you use super glue and fine cast. Okay, we got to this stage, the cart and model is fully assembled and we have the model separate from his base. I was going to glue him to it, but I realized that it would be an absolute nightmare to try and base the miniature after the fact. So I decided, I don't think I've ever done this for a miniature before. I decided to base the base before sticking the miniature to it. I think it was a clever move. I just used some AK textured paste, some dark earth, my favorite brown textured paste, which I will be using for all Lord of the Rings models. Well, maybe not. Dwarves and goblins and stuff might be on a grey one, but you know, anything that's outdoors. Now, before I got the cart fully done, obviously it's been sprayed now. It's looking kind of fresh and ready to be stuck to the base. I just want to actually dry brush up the base. So we went for a light orange base. I usually go for a Rise of Rust, and I dry brush the base with that. And then we move on to a nice bone color. You Shapty Bone or Screaming Skull, whichever one you like, and you lightly dry brush the base with that as well. It gives you a really nice kind of earthy tone, and it does genuinely work a treat for natural bases. Obviously you're going to be putting tufts and flock and stuff over the top of it. This is just what you're going to see through that. It's going to be nice and painted. Add super glue to all of the connection points and then press the miniature into place before we start the painting process. I wanted to glue the model to a base so I had something to hold on to while I'm painting the model. And this was a really nice kind of place to start the painting process from. It was very much enjoyable. Now, if you have ever had the pleasure of going to Warhammer World, you will see this miniature in the cabinets in the Hall of Miniatures, and it's the only miniature that has a funny little plaque next to it. And I can't remember the names of who was badgering who, but basically the story goes that there was a certain high up that kept pressuring the design studio to make this miniature. And the design studio kept coming back to them and being like, this model will never be made. It doesn't need to be made. It's not a war miniature. It's never featured in a battle. We make a miniature war game. You know, battles happen. What the hell would Gandalf and Cart be doing there? It makes absolutely no sense. So stop asking him. Well, he didn't. He kept pestering and pestering and pestering and pestering until they finally produced this. And literally they presented him with a fully painted one on a plaque which said, look, we finally made Gandalf on Cart. Now leave us alone. So thanks to the pestering of that one individual, we have this beautiful model in existence. So I, for one, am very glad for that pestering. The design studio obviously didn't want it to be sold, but I think they eat their words because it's become one of the most kind of famous and I kind of beloved miniatures for the Battle Games for Middle-earth game. Like I said, not particular to be used in games, but just to own, to build, and to paint, and to have on your shelf. One of those vignette-style pieces. But anyway, I threw some base coats on the cart, the horse, and the reins. We got some Basilicanum Grey, and we're going to throw this across Gandalf's robes. I think the first time I ever painted Gandalf, I stupidly thought his hat was the same color as his robes. I don't think it comes across as blue very easily in the movies, or maybe I just didn't notice it. And then I saw a painting guide for it later on, and they were painting the hat blue, and I was like, why is this hat blue? And I went back and looked at it, and his hat was indeed blue, so yeah. Gulliman flesh is going to be used for his skin. Now you got to be careful with this because the colors that we sprayed this model was black and then grey sear. And that nice coat of grey sear is what we're using as the base coat for the beard. We do not want to paint over that. So when you're applying kind of skin tones or anything to a model like this, just be careful. You need to get his lips, the little top half of his face, and his hands. Space Wolves Grey is a beautiful base coat for that blue hat of his because it is kind of a smoky bluey grey. So yeah, go for it with that. My favourite miniature of Gandalf actually doesn't have his hat on. It's the one where he's fighting the Balrog on the bridge of Khazad-dûm. That's my favourite Gandalf miniature, and he obviously has lost his hat at that stage. And he looks very menacing with his sword and staff raised in the air, screaming, "You shall not pass." And then we're going to throw a couple of extra base coats onto, obviously, the things hanging out the back of his cart, all of his fireworks, his little bit of baggage, his little riding implements and stuff like that, which are super important for Gandalf the Grey to have. And with all of those bits and pieces base coated, we are now going to throw a shade across the entire miniature. Agri-Xert shade is a beautiful one to do. It's going to base coat everything nicely, help dull all those tones down, put lots of shadow in the recesses, and give us a really nice place to start layering the model up from. Okay, now it's time to start the layering process. The first thing I did is I grabbed a Ushabti bone and I dry brushed it across all that kind of wicker / wood that the main body of his cart is kind of done with. And you'll notice this is a very quick and simple technique, but it does give you really, really nice results. Very quick results, but very nice. Here's an example of two sides of a dry brush, and you can see the side that isn't. It's a huge difference for very little effort. And there I did it across the wheels and all the other parts of the kind of chariot or cart. It looks really good. Hadachan flesh was used to very quickly highlight and layer up the kind of main body of the horse. It would have been cool if they had have made the cart just a tiny bit bigger, the seat maybe a little bit wider, and had a little Frodo sitting next to him. I thought that would have been really nice addition one day maybe. Doombull brown is used to highlight and layer up all of the, what is it called? The tack, the reins, the stirrups, all those kind of bits and pieces. Not the stirrups, but you know what I mean. All the strappy bits that exist across his beautiful horse. Okay, on to Mechanicus Standard Grey, and we are going to be layering up Gandalf's robes with this. So we're going to be, like I said before, we have shaded the model down so those shadows and stuff exist. They're really nice and we don't want to fill those in with the grey paint. So we're going to be hitting for the kind of higher sections of the folds across all of his robes, going all the way from kind of his neck down to his boots. Take your time and do this correctly and it will make a huge difference to the result of the model. Obviously Gandalf sitting on the card is the focal part of the model. So people are going to be staring at it when you show the model. So take your time on it, make sure you do get it correct. Bit of Dawnstone was then brought in as the final highlight for the robes. And as you can see, I'm moving quite fast, but I'm only leaving small amounts of grey paint behind. Little touches here and there, just to highlight it all up. From here, the Fang is used as the mid-tone for his hat. And as you can see, I'm choosing the motion that my brush moves, which is kind of pulling from the kind of surface area and then towards me to create those kind of scratchy lines. And they're obviously going to go up the brim of his hat. And because his hat is kind of folded back, that will dictate which way we will do the kind of scratchy lines, going from top to bottom. Now, I decided I wasn't going to highlight the hat anymore, but I decided it needed just a tiny bit more attention. So what I did is I mixed the Fang with a little bit of rust grey, about 50-50 to be honest. And then I gave it all another kind of light highlight across the entire hat again. This helped to kind of make it all pop, and make it look really cool. From here, we are going to go straight to Kislev flesh, which is usually the very final highlight for the skin. And I'm just going to do that on his flesh. Normally, I would add in like a Berserker Bloodshade and Acadian and stuff, but that would add too much warmth back into his face. And Gandalf's face is quite cold and quite, like, he's a very, very old man. So he's supposed to have that kind of, you know, there's not a lot of rosiness left in his cheeks, if you know what I mean. So going straight to the end with Kislev just made sense. Pallid Witch Flesh was used for his hair and his beard as a very quick highlight to that, pulling it back into that kind of, I don't know, bony kind of grey color tone. We highlighted up the fireworks mid-tone on a highlight of red, Scrag Brown for his leathery satchel that he had back there as well. Not paying kind of too much crazy attention to those areas. You can paint them however you like. If you want all the fireworks to be different colors, go for it. I was trying to find my sprues for my Cathay models trying to find one of the big dragon fireworks that came with those, but I think I threw out all the parts, which was a shame. I wish I'd kept those. I would have painted up a big dragon firework and put it in the back as well. Would have been really cool. Now that the model is fully painted, we very quickly move on to adding kind of grass tufts with the fur. I went for two different colors on this, added a little bit of height and definition, and then after that we added a whole bunch of PVA glue, quick dry PVA glue, and then we added some of our Shire grass, which is the same thing we used on our Hobbit hull for last week, and it's the same color grass I use for all of my halfling models, my hobbits, so that this as a combined force. Eventually, when I finish my Hobbit army, this is where this miniature will sit. It doesn't really ever fight with the hobbits, but even when the scouring of the Shire was happening, he didn't participate. He would have been Gandalf the White at that stage anyway, but you know what I mean. But yeah, we added some nice grass to it, which really gives that life to it, which exists for, you know, the Shire is supposed to be this big, beautiful, lush, green area. And this is what it is. Hopefully you guys enjoyed episode 2 of the Middle-earth Monday series. Like I said, we'll be giving you a new video every single Monday, so do make sure that you are subscribed. And please let me know what other content you want to see on this channel. I'll be more than happy to oblige. Any Middle-earth models you want to see, I probably have them. Thank you guys so much for sticking around at the end of the video. I'll see you in the next one.